What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu, and you're watching Ragin Ronin review. I got a review for you. Last Friday, I watched Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is the 5th installment in the Mission Impossible franchise produced by and starring Tom Cruise. This franchise has been running for 19 years now, and after 19 years, we're finally getting the 5th installment, which is a film that I've been highly anticipating for this summer. I love this franchise. I'm a huge fan of it. In fact, I put the Mission Impossible franchise right up there as one of my favorite film franchises of all time. Ever since J.J. Abrams took over the directing duties with Mission Impossible 3 back in 2006, he took the franchise in the right direction. It's kind of like how Justin Lin took the Fast and Furious franchise in the right direction with Fast 5. Well, J.J. Abrams did just that with the Mission Impossible franchise. Now, even though he did not direct Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation, he served as a producer, he still brings his level of excitement to all these films. He's got his fingerprints all over these films. Now, Rogue Nation is directed by Christopher McQuarrie. And Christopher McQuarrie is no stranger to Tom Cruise action films because he has directed Tom Cruise in Jack Reacher back in 2012, and also he wrote the screenplay for Edge of Tomorrow, which came out last year. Now, what does Christopher McQuarrie bring to the table? Well, first of all, the gang is all back. Of course, Tom Cruise is back. Jeremy Renner, who was introduced in Ghost Protocol, he's back as William Brandt. Simon Pegg, who's a fan favorite, he's back as Benji Dunn. And also Ving Rhames is back as Luther Stickle. We also got new cast members like Rebecca Ferguson, who plays Ilsa Faust, and also the villain is played by Sean Harris, who plays Solomon Lane. Now, as for the story, it continues where the previous one leaves off, which is Ghost Protocol. And if you don't remember, at the end of Ghost Protocol, the guy who gives Ethan Hunt the instructions, or rather his mission, talks about the Syndicate. Well, that's what Rogue Nation is about. It's about dealing with the Syndicate, and what the Syndicate is an anti-IMF force. We have the good IMF force versus the bad IMF force, and well, that's what it really is about. Now, what's great about these films is that they're all standalone films. You really don't need to know what happened in the previous films to understand and enjoy the new installments in the franchise. So that's great about the franchise. As for the film itself, well, as for what this installment really brings to the franchise, I wouldn't say that it's really anything that new. I mean, we're at the 5th film now, and this is a Mission Impossible film, and you can expect to see kind of the same elements that we've seen before, such as breaking into somewhere. We have little elements of personal revenge. We have the elements of where they have to get into hard places to get into. They have to take something. They have to deal with surveillance and cryptography, and all kinds of stuff that we've already seen before. The only thing that's really different is the story is different, but essentially they're doing the same kind of things. But the one thing that really makes these films stand out is the stunts. The stunts are crazy, and this is something that you have to thank Tom Cruise for, because Tom Cruise is one of the few of a dying breed of actors who actually do their own stunts, and because of that, we get some pretty mind-blowing action sequences. And I gotta say that this is what really has this film going for it. The stunts are what really sell this film. A lot of the stuff, like the story elements that I see in Rogue Nation, is stuff that I kind of already seen before in the previous installments. And, that's not exactly a bad thing, but in Rogue Nation, Christopher McQuarrie kind of puts his own spin on it. But I gotta tell you, that airplane stunt, the car chases, the motorcycle stunts, it's nuts, okay? It is absolutely freaking nuts, because that is Tom Cruise doing it. And he completely raises the bar for all the stunts. So essentially, these films are all about the visual cues. The visual cues that excite us, and that's what Tom Cruise really wants to bring to the table. As for the story itself, I don't think it's really anything groundbreaking. I felt that this film doesn't make make itself better than Ghost Protocol, but it definitely is a good compliment for the franchise. All right, it's definitely a very good film. There's a lot of great action set pieces, and I think the story is something that is quite unique. But essentially and ultimately, these films really have a lot of the same elements to them. So there's really nothing new there except for the stunts. Now, make no mistake about it. this is a really great film. It's a very, very good film. There's a lot of great chemistry in there. Ethan Hunt, Simon Pegg, Luther Stickle, Jeremy Renner, they have a lot of great chemistry. Their performances are excellent, and watching them on screen together is a very, very fun and charming thing. And of course, you bring in Rebecca Ferguson, who brings something new to the table because we don't really know what her character is all about. So that kind of brings an element of surprise and a twist to the film, all right? So I really enjoyed this film. I don't think it's better than Ghost Protocol, but I like what it brings to the table. And Christopher McQuarrie has brought a decent and really well-directed installment into the franchise. Now, the only complaint I really have about this film is the fact that they're dealing with the Syndicate, which they call an anti-IMF force, but the way that these villains are portrayed, this anti-IMF force is portrayed, is really just like a bunch of goons. They don't feel like or look like an IMF team, an anti-IMF team. They look like just like your typical James Bond style villain with a bunch of goons. That's all they look like. They do not look like the Syndicate. They don't feel like an anti-IMF team. They don't look like or feel like that you get any sense of that these guys are as good as the original IMF team at all. They just look like a bunch of goons that they get taken out quite easily. And that is one of my main complaints about the film. But other than that, it's all good. Now, there's another complaint I have, but it doesn't really affect the score of the film, and that is they've really given us everything in the trailers, which is really unfortunate. They gave us, the plane stunt, the car chase, the motorcycle chase, Tom Cruise breaking out of captivity. We get to see all of that in the trailers, and after all that was over, I was thinking to myself, do they have any more tricks up their sleeve? And that's where I feel that the third act kind of fell flat, because it wasn't really anything that interesting. After the motorcycle chase, the plane stunt, it really stole the show. So once we got to the third act, it was really just about wrapping things up using their IMF tactics. All right, and that's where all the spy stuff came in. All right, but other than that, I thought it was a pretty decent film. It's definitely not better than Ghost Protocol, but it's still a very good film. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I will give it an 8 out of 10, and I think that is a film that you definitely should check out on the large screen, because it's definitely worth your money. I highly recommend it. If you really want to see the absolute best Mission Impossible film, go watch Ghost Protocol. All right? Once again, this is a great installment in the franchise, and I highly recommend it, 8 out of 10. And as always, if you enjoyed this review, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, @RaginNation. My name's Alex Yu. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. That was so evil. That was so villainous. I mean, that made you really hate the character. It made you feel that he was such a slimy villain.